I didn't expect much of the Angstrum because the base version of the weapon is even the Prisma is a terrible weapon. But the Incarnon form turns this weapon 180 degrees, and I can tell you from the get-go, I fully recommend it. Hey guys, welcome back. As always, my name is Leyzar, and today we're going to be diving deeper into the Incarnon Angstrum. I'm going to be having an endgame setup considering that these Incarnon Genesis adapters are anything but new player friendly. That said, we're still going to be going through everything that you need to know. What evolutions to pick, what kind of build options you have, what kind of performance you can expect out of the weapon. So with that out of the way, let's jump into the Incarnon Angstrum. Let's begin by checking out how the weapon handles without any mods equipped, and for that, just a couple of our regular free shots. The Angstrum in its normal form, or the Prisma Angstrum, is not exactly one of the most fantastic weapons in the game, and unfortunately you will have to get headshots with this one. I would recommend you get nice, close and personal to your target to get that charge, and simply tap your button. On the bright side, you don't need a whole lot of headshots to get a good amount of charge, and with any level of charge you can go Incarnon form where the weapon changes functionality and appearance as well, and it looks awfully spiky. In Incarnon form, this one starts chugging these, my friends. These are projectiles that bounce off of surfaces. How many times do they bounce? One. And of course, projectile flight speed affects these. Now, what you need to understand about these projectiles is the fact that they can lock onto a target, but ever so slightly. Look at this. See that? It does lock on to a target, but if I fire more like this, it doesn't lock on. So you need to be pretty close to the target, and of course you are going to be getting that bouncing effect with one additional target. Keep in mind that the projectile will disappear on the second point of contact. So there can be two targets hit or two surfaces hit. After the second point of contact happens, the projectile disappears. That's pretty much it. You should also be aware of the impact that projectile flight speed has on this. Obviously, projectile flight speed would mean that the projectile moves faster, which is fantastic and all whatnot, but it also means you're gonna have a harder time actually locking onto targets because it takes a while for the projectile to actually curve its trajectory and lock onto a target. It doesn't just simply shift direction, it's an arc. So with plus PFS, I found that it's harder for the projectile to actually lock onto targets. I would just simply not overdo it with projectile flight speed on this one. The maximum charge in Incarnon form is gonna be a whopping 120. Level 1 simply enables a transformation. At level 2 is where you get your first real choice. First of all, we're going to be talking about Paladin Virtue. This one increases damage by a flat amount, 75, absolutely huge. With energy max over 700, you also get increased critical damage multiplier by 0.5x. From my point of view, this is the most usable one, simply because this one is a bit more dependent on the Warframe, even more so than this one. You get 50 damage in this case, but another 50 with overshield, so it's gonna be a tad on the iffy side. It's gonna depend on your Warframe, and the problem is that every single time you want to change one of these talents, you gotta go to Cavaliero, which makes it harder for you to get a setup going. Hold on, I'm gonna be using Children, I'm gonna get overshields, and then I gotta go to Cavaliero to change that. You're not gonna do that, are you? Especially not for 25 extra damage, so simply go with Paladin Virtue. Level 3 is the usability tree. I would recommend you go Swift Deliverance, 30% projectile flight speed. Now, you did hear what I say regarding plus PFS. It can turn around to bite you in the dead air, but honestly, normally I just shoot in the general vicinity of the enemies and it locks on just fine. Another option was this one, Hitman's Horde. For a second there I thought it says, hey, magazine capacity plus 9, which would help with the overall charge of the weapon because some players have been experiencing difficulty charging the Angstrum to get to set Incarnon form, but it's just ammo max by 9, which does help, don't get me wrong. The ammo max of the weapon by default is 18 and this one takes it to 27, but I know you don't like these kind of options. As for rapid reinforcement, reload speed on Incarnon weapons is always a good idea because it increases the speed at which the weapon transforms. For the time being, Swift Deliverance and plus projectile flight speed in the Excellent slot as well. So you're going to be getting 30 with 40, that's going to be 70. Alternatively, if you want a more balanced route, you can go for the reload speed or the ammo capacity, dealer's choice when it comes to level 3 as per usual. Evolution 4, let's talk about Fatal Affliction. Plus 40% direct damage per status type afflicting the target. You have seen this kind of talent before, and unfortunately it still doesn't really work Right, it doesn't fully apply its damage benefit as it should. It seems to be applying only to the base damage of the weapon, so for the time being I would forget about this one entirely. It's sub-acceleration by far. Critical parallel, you know this one as well, don't you? 6% critical chance, 0.2 critical multiplier. Honestly, this is usually my default go-to, but this one is not a bad idea either. Survivor's Edge, 4% crit with 4% status chance. For the time being, we're gonna go with critical parallel. In terms of a build, if you're more of a newer player coming into Warframe and you came across the Prisma Angstrum or the regular Angstrum and you want to build it, you need to stop right there. This is a terrible weapon for newer players. This is a terrible weapon in general unless you Incarnon Genesis Adapter it, which will happen later in your Warframe career. So for the time being, if you want a solid low MR secondary weapon that can absolutely melt whatever the star chart can offer, look at the cards right now. As for an endgame setup, which is what we're going to be tackling today, you're looking at something like this. This will be one of your options. You can play around with it, but this is the base of the build. We're going to have Galvanized Diffusion. Galvanized Shot does work on it in an additive fashion, not a multiplicative fashion. Lethal Momentum, like I said before, I'm using projectile flight speed with projectile flight speed 70%. It's a tad overkill, but this is the way I enjoy most of my weapons. In the Excellent slot, we're going to be using Cascadia Flare, as by the weapon default does heat damage, and we also got Prime Heated Charge on it, in combination with Corrosive formed by the two 60-60 mods. You can also use unranked 60-60 mods, but you're kind of screwing yourself when it comes to tactics like this, in the sense that yes, you will get a lower priority on the stat that you don't want to proc, but you're also eating away at your status chance. For the time being, forget about it, simply use the fully maxed out ones. When it comes to critical chance and critical damage, the option is pretty simple. Prime Target Cracker is best in slot, but you can use Creeping Bullseye instead of Prime Pistol Gambit. In this case, I don't think the 13% extra critical chance is worth the minus 20% fire rate. Now, if I remember correctly, the difference between these is, look at this, look at the critical chance, 96 versus 91.8. Go for the option of your choosing. We also got a Bane mod here. If you don't enjoy Bane mods, you can replace this one, but I would not replace it with Hornet Strike because you got plenty of flat damage on the build from Galvanized Shot and Cascadia Flare. For all intents and purposes, considering that the weapon itself is only gonna generate 2 procs on your target, Galvanized Shot can actually go. You can even replace this one out with something like Lethal Torrent, but if you don't enjoy these faction mods, like I do not enjoy these faction mods, simply use Lethal Torrent. It will make the weapon feel a whole lot more powerful. It doesn't mean it is, it just means it feels a whole lot more powerful. Hemorrhage is a no-go because the weapon does not generate any impact procs, at least not in its Incarnon form, and from what I can see, it's normal form either. For the record, we will be completely and utterly ignoring its normal form because it is horrible, essentially. You're just going to be using it to charge your weapon. Level 165, Corrupted Heavy Goons. You're going to see that I charge it very easily with a single shot at times like this, but that's because this explosion headshotted this guy and the other guy. Normally you need a shot or 2 or 3 to get yourself the charge. Keep in mind that that projectile flight speed also helps with the travel speed of the projectiles on the Angstrom as well. The problem with it is the spread is freaking horrendous. This has always been a goddamn annoying weapon. So it's hard for you to get headshots and you cannot charge the weapon if you go for body shots. Normally, I didn't really have a realistic problem in normal missions charging this one, and I will demonstrate just a tad later. But that's not important. What is important is this. We're gonna go for the Incarnon form. In order to get the weapon in full swing, we're gonna have to get a couple of kills, yes. Fair warning, the weapon melts. The weapon melts your targets, it bounces to 1 additional target, and honestly, it's a freaking joy to use, and I absolutely love this one. Take a look at that. Beautifully, beautifully. I'll destroy that headshot one more time. There you go, full charge, fantastic. 120 charge, that is more than plenty, and these are still the 165s with the steel path modifiers on, so these are no pushovers by any stretch of the imagination. Now, I do believe, my friends, we already talked about build variations. But the biggest build variation that you can make is the smartest build variation that you can make. You can drop the corrosive that I'm using right now, and instead of corrosive heat, simply go for, obviously, viral heat. Now, viral heat will be a smarter idea in most of the cases, just not as good of an idea in my case in the simulacrum, simply because those targets have ferrite armor, and if they have ferrite armor, they get more affected by corrosive damages. That's 75% bonus. So in my case in particular, corrosive is smarter, but in general, viral will be the smarter idea. Riven mods. 4 out of 5. What is my priority? Multi-shot, critical damage. Look at this. Multi-shot and critical damage. Now I'm going to be showcasing with a Riven. The reason why I showcase without a Riven is because I don't want you guys to believe that the weapon is only capable if you have a Riven. No. So, there you go. We're going to be going like so. Critical damage and multi-shot on that fantastic Riven. Did you guys buy Angstrum Rivens before this? Because you should have. I didn't buy. I forgot. I wanted to, but then I forgot. So that is that. Now, we're going to be doing it with a Riven, and as before, we're going to have to get a couple of kills in order for the weapon to be in full swing. But I want you to notice something. The direct damage I'm actually doing to these targets. Look at the amount of charm. Look at my magazine capacity right now from that 120 charging compared to the initial test. Significantly better. And how could it not be? It's a this 4 out of 5 because I don't even understand why it's not 5 out of 5. I don't understand who's actually playing with this weapon because again in its normal form it's not bloody bad. But as you can see, it can absolutely shred whatever stands before it. Welcome to the void, my friends. Now let's see how hard or how easy it is to actually charge the weapon. I'm just gonna tap it one time, and I know what you're gonna say. Dude, hold on, you're using Revenant, and Revenant is crowd controlling your targets, and that would be correct. Yes, that I am actually cheating slightly with Revenant. This is the kind of charge you can get, and I'll be honest, it's not always all that easy, but it's not something overly hard either. You can simply get close to your targets and use it as a shotgun, and you're gonna be getting yourself some charge. The problem is the explosion will be knocking you back, so if you're not using something like a Revenant, make sure you use Prime sure-footed, as disgusting as that might sound. As for Incarnon form performance, it destroys everything, like you would expect. Look. That's it, it just plows through everything at this level. Now granted, at higher levels, considering this one relies a whole lot on base damage and flat damage is not going to be doing as good, but this is more than a capable weapon, and it's going to be deleting corridors upon corridors of enemy and rapid faction. Okay, let's try to charge again. A single shot. That was like, what, 60% of a charge? Here's another shot, fully charged. So it's really not all that bad. Obviously, it's gonna be depending on your input method, if you use a controller or not. You can turn on aim assist or whatever else. And again, you can shoot the wall and get the explosion to hit a target in the head. A single headshot on a single target, it still gives you like 20-30% charge depending on the level of multi-shot that you had on that particular shot. So I don't think we should cry about the charge. Granted, I am using PFS, a whole lot of PFS, and I also have the I have a ton of multi-shot on the weapon, so it's not all that hard. Then again, if you don't have the mods, you can't really get the most out of the weapon. Now I can stay here a whole day and keep shooting these low-level targets, but I'm not really sure that'll prove much of everything, or if anything. So let's see an Acolyte fight, shall we? People are crying that Angstrum Incarnon is shit, hard to believe that. I don't know who is saying that, but how do I put this? They're wrong. The Incarnon Angstrum is a fucking amazing weapon. Absolutely love it. Now granted, it's not on the level of the Lex, and it's not on the level of the Latum, but after the Lex and the Latum, this is your secondary weapon to has, as far as Incarnon weapons are concerned, that is. We also got the Flash now, so the whatchamacallit will come. Let's try to get like a one-on-one so you can see better. What is that? Misery. Is that the bubble guy? I only fear the bubble guy. Bubble guy. Oh, there's the guy. Are you the bubble guy? I don't know, but he's freaking dead. Destroyed. As was to be expected, considering how this weapon actually deals its damage. So there you go. Fantastic against Acolytes as well. What else is there to say, my friends? Would you like to see some Warframe buffs with Lady Mirage? Of course you would. Of course, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? Lady Mirage, yes, yes. This will be juicy. The amount of balls, they're not actually balls, they're like, no, I guess you can compare them to tennis balls. Did you ever hit a tennis ball while it was drenched in water? It's a dumb idea, but you should do it anyway because it's kind of fun. Arcane Avenger, Arcane Tempo. Arcane Tempo is not going to be helping us with this one. We don't actually need anything like more flat damage in this case, so we can go with Fire Rate. It's Arcane Velocity. Fire Rate to pistols. Yes, Velocity, that is it. 4 companions. Obviously, the Pencil Wolf of I will get you the Vital Procs. Yeah. Immortal, yeah. Easy mode gameplay every day, yeah. Yeah. Let's go. Simulation. Did I unpause the targets? Yeah, because they look awfully angry. Now I'm gonna do Empower and Mirage's free ability Eclipse for absolutely fantastic damage increase and one more time. Forever so lovely. Well, let's get that charge. One shot, full charge. Can you even see anything on your screen, stream? That's it, I never stopped firing. Where'd he go? I don't know. I must have forgot to spawn the enemies. It's my fault. Give me the charge. That's it. Incarnon 4. Up into the air. The reason why I'm jumping into the air is just so you can see the actual trail of the projectiles better and the bouncing and the everything. That's it. That is what the weapon does. It essentially melts everything that stands before it. And I can only fully recommend the Incarnon Angstrum as being the second most powerful Incarnon weapon of the brand new Rotation 5. And of course, you will be curious, hold on, second most powerful? What's the most powerful weapon of Incarnon Rotation 2, or the new Incarnon Rotation 2? Look at the cards right now. As always, my name is Leyzar. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, share, and subscribe only if you enjoy the content. If you got any feedback for me, I would love to read it in the comment section down below. I will totally not ignore it. You can also find me on Twitch doing exactly what you see me doing now. Facebook, Twitter, all the usual places. And you can also join our Discord community and check out the stuff and the things. But if you love the content and you want to help me keep making it, consider supporting us via Patreon. There's going to be a link in the upper right portion of the screen right about now. But until next time, my friends, bye-bye.